Hello everybody, my name is Chris Roberts. I'm a video game developer and VR enthusiast, and sim racing's my hobby these days. I've been on iRacing for a few years, and have been almost exclusively running it in virtual reality since it was introduced in the June 2016 update. I started off with a Vive because it was the only headset that I had available at the time. Then when I received my Oculus, I switched over to that. But I've also owned a Fove and auditioned a couple of the Oculus or the Samsung Odyssey Plus Windows mixed reality headsets as well. But in October, I ordered a Pimax 5K, the 5K Plus, and it arrived about 10 days ago. So I've been experimenting with it a little bit, but I was really curious to see how things would work with the new single pass rendering in the March update. So that happened today. And I've pretty much spent the day experimenting with stuff and trying to find the best compromise set of settings and stuff, and wanted to share that a little bit with you guys. So the way that I've got it running now, I am pretty happy. It works consistently. I've done some worst case testing as far as car and track combinations and big sessions and stuff, but overall, I'm pretty satisfied at this point. And especially, given the field of view and resolution increase over the previous headsets, I really couldn't be happier. There's lots of times this afternoon where I really felt, I was there way more than I have in the previous headsets. So I don't want to ruin this practice session for anybody, so let's get offline. And I wanted to talk about the headset, not really demonstrate the stream and stuff. So there's a lot that I've learned today. I was optimistic about the single pass rendering update being a solid optimization and helping it so that my goal was to be able to run with the same visual quality settings and solid frame rate that I had been running with the Oculus, but at the Pimax resolution. Honestly, I've fallen a little bit short of that, but I still think at the end of the day, the way that it's running for me right now is an improvement, and it's satisfactory. So the first thing that I tried to figure out was the differences in the resolutions. There's 3 different places where you can set the effective resolution for the headset. The first, and I think the lowest level, is in the Pimax PyTool software. In the settings for the HMD, there is a quality bar. Goes from low at 0.5 to high at 2. With a default of 1. So what I discovered pretty early on is in the settings for Steam VR, as you change that slider for the quality in the PyTool, it changes what Steam VR thinks of as the base resolution. So this is the second place where you can set or affect the resolution. In Steam VR, there's this manual override, or you can do it by application, for the application resolution. And you can increase this or decrease it. Before the update today, I had been running with the Pimax or PyTool value of 1 and a 76 or 78 value in Steam VR. And that was okay. It was obviously a little bit compromised, but it looked okay. A little rough around the edges, but I was able to make reasonable frame rate if I turned pretty much all the options down. So that brings us to the third place that the resolution is affected, and that's in the render settings for iRacing. There's this resolution scale percent. So once I got things running this morning and had the single pass stereo in the build, I started off doing experiments first with the Pi tool value, and then with the Steam VR, and finally adjusting the iRacing resolution scale percentage. And it's still a little bit of a mystery. And if other people have solid data or information that they can chime in, I'd be totally open to learning about what other people have observed. But what I tried to do was be fairly scientific about it and take screenshots at different resolutions. So this was the Steam VR at 100 with Pimax at 1. This is with the Steam VR at yeah, the way the screenshots are ordered, it's a little clumsy. But this was Pimax at 2, and this was Pimax at 1. When I ran them in the game and drove around, first of all, it was confusing because there was no significant change in the frame rate, and the only observable on-screen difference was the position of the UI elements, that you move around with Alt-K. So with the Pimax at 1 and Steam VR at 100, the frame rate display that I have is centered exactly on the antenna. But with the Pimax value of 2, it's offset a little bit. And it's offset in a little bit that conforms to changing the Steam VR resolutions above 120. So Steam VR resolutions of 120 or larger, the frame rate indicator is offset just slightly to the right, and it's the same regardless all the way up to 500. So this is 500 in Steam VR resolution, that's 200%, that's 150, that's 125. So it seems like anything above 125, the offset of the UI element is the same. And what I observed in-game was I had the same frame rate and the same visual quality. If I zoomed in on a section, there was no observable, I couldn't tell any improvement. So I kind of think that Steam VR setting is getting clipped. It didn't seem to make any difference above 125. There was no change in the UI elements anymore, and the visual quality seemed to be consistent. However, if I changed the resolution scale percentage with an iRacing, that always affects the performance. So above 100, I start to see frame rate decline pretty significantly. Looking at the difference between 125 and 100, I couldn't tell any difference. And even if I exaggerated it up and put it at 150, which seems to be about the threshold where my graphics card starts to drop off with memory, I couldn't see any significant improvement, but the frame rate was definitely much worse. So the way I ended up after those experiments is that I have my Pi tool set at 1, because any lower than that, it's obviously a decrease in resolution, and above that, I don't see an improvement. So I left that at 1, and I left Steam VR at 100%. I do see a slight change in the position of the UI elements above 100, between 100 and 125, but like I said, I don't see any visual improvement, and I don't see any frame rate change either, which makes me think that this is somehow being clipped or otherwise disregarded. And what I experimented with within the iRacing resolution scale percentage, I couldn't convince myself that there was really much of an improvement above 100. 110, 120, 125 all seemed about the same, and with each increase in scale percentage, there was a corresponding decrease in frame rate. So since I couldn't tell an improvement, I ended up sticking with 100%. So given that as a baseline, my goal was to find in-game options that would still hit frame rate. And that's where it actually got a little bit disappointing, because I was really hoping that the single pass stereo would allow me to run with more shadows, more anti-aliasing, more high resolution on the objects and stuff in the game, and it was a real struggle. To be honest, and also just to my computer graphics card is a 1080 Ti, and it's a 7700K CPU. I didn't want to, start going in and overclocking stuff. I just wanted to run it the same way that I'd been running with the Oculus, and I couldn't really do it. I could get close if I turned stuff way down, and I could run at 90 hertz, but it looks really bland with those settings and wasn't very satisfactory. So I took a look, and they're in the newest version. This is version, I guess, 193 of the PyTool software. In the Brain Warp section, you can adjust the frame rate of the headset. And even though I didn't think it was going to be satisfactory, I experimented with dropping it down to 72 hertz as the headset frame rate, and that actually is okay. I was sort of shocked as far as I was expecting flicker or a little bit of nausea or motion sensitivity, but honestly, I was shocked as far as it's satisfactory. As long as the computer is actually generating at least 72 hertz. If it starts to fluctuate or it's dropping below that, I get like micro stutters, especially in the tracking and disorientation and stuff. So it's imperative that the computer is actually running faster than that. But what I found has been pretty much okay. And this is the set of graphics options that I've ended up sort of going with for now. I have the sky and clouds at high detail because I hate it when it chunks as it moves. I wish on the medium detail you'd at least get the smooth update, but high detail seems to be the requirement. Cars on low, pit objects off, event objects off, grandstands off, crowds off, objects at low detail. I want to see the trees and stuff, but particles on medium with full resolution but not soft. No limit on the frame rate. I did experiment a bunch with the anisotropic filtering and anti-aliasing, and I'd like to run these higher, but running with the filtering at 4 and the anti-aliasing at 2 seems sort of like a baseline satisfactory. I do want the dynamic track data. I do want the dynamic tighter data. Running shadow maps on everything seems to work okay. If I do the self-shadowing, I take a frame rate hit that drops it down. I haven't experimented very much with the night, but these are the light settings that I've got. Simple filter, high detail on the shaders. I like to have the steering wheel shown, but not the arms, because for me, if I do anything different with my arms than the virtual driver does, it makes me uncomfortable. So 2-pass trees, the cockpit mirrors, I want to have the mirrors and the video camera in the GT cars and stuff, so I've got that at 4. Low detail on the headlights. I do have the virtual mirror enabled at 120 degrees and sharpening. So those are the graphics options that I've got. When I'm running like that, my memory load is pretty high compared to the way it was with the Oculus. So I've upped my available memory to 6096, which gives a little bit of headroom, but like that. So running with those settings, I find that I get solid 72 hertz, even with big grids in Nürburgring or Watkins Glen or other tracks that typically cause my frame rate to suffer. So that's where I've ended up as far as the software configuration. There were a couple things I also wanted to mention about the headset itself. One of the reasons that I've stuck with the Oculus for so long is that I think it's comfortable. It's lightweight, it's small, it fits on my head pretty well. I can wear it for a really long period of time. The Pimax is a lot bigger. It's not that much heavier, and I haven't gotten out the scale to weigh them comparatively, but just the way that it fits on my head is a lot more sort of involved. Let me see if I... Yeah, this scene will work. Um, One of the most critical things with any VR headset is getting it so that the lens position relative to your eyes is set ideally, and you're getting the best focal plane on the display as possible. And for me, that was one of the biggest initial hurdles. Is I'm running now with the deluxe audio strap from the Vive, but I could not get the default straps that come with the Pimax to hold it steady really for any duration. So the way I'm running it, there is a 3D printed solution that you can get to attach the deluxe audio strap. I'm simply using Velcro straps right now, but I did order the parts to do the same integration that it has on the Vive. So we'll see how that goes when it comes. But the deluxe audio strap is comfortable. I'm running it with the VR cover foam replacement on the inside. That does seem to make it a little bit more comfortable. But the biggest thing that I have a problem with is the interpupillary distance. My eyes are very close together, so I have to run at the lowest possible IPD, pretty much with any headset. And the problem for me with the Pimax is that when you do that, the bridge of the nose almost feels like it's getting pinched by the lenses. So one thing, and I don't know if this is going to be the long-term solution, but I've added just a little piece of felt on the inside here, so that when the bridge of my nose comes in contact with it, it's the felt fabric rather than the edge of the lens, and that seems to help a lot. So if you're lucky and you can run with a wide IPD, that's probably not a problem. But I've heard from other people about discomfort on the nose. So the other thing is that I'm not running with the stock foam facial interface anymore. This is the one that came with the Pimax, and it's pretty thick, but I experimented with putting a thin, I think this is the 6mm VR cover on top of it, and that helped push my nose and face out away so that I had that level of comfort. But the real problem then was that optically, I wasn't able to really hit the sweet spot anymore. So I've changed it to use, this is the 16mm VR cover velour interface for the Oculus, and it fits right on. The existing Velcro from the Pimax interface works pretty well, and the shape of the Oculus velour is okay. So the combination of the 16mm velour and the felt on the nose, I've gotten it so that I'm pretty comfortable. I'm hoping that when I get the real interface for the deluxe audio strap, I can change the angle a little bit more easily and get it so that it's dialed in. But the way that this is running, I'm pretty happy with. The only other thing I wanted to mention is I run on my stream with a speech chat as a Google-powered text-to-speech engine. So I ended up working another audio input. On the Oculus, it was a real problem, and I actually had to do a hardware mod. But with the with the Pimax, you can just use a stereo splitter. This is the input from the headphone, and this is the input from my other audio input. So the sound from the headset goes to the speaker or the headphones. The audio from my speech chat comes in, and it's one extra cable coming down with it, but it's not too bad. So I guess that's pretty much it as far as the quick overview I wanted to do and share the settings and experience that I had today trying to get things to work at frame rate with the new single pass stereo stuff. Like I said, I was hoping that I was going to be able to get the same level of quality and 90 hertz at the Pimax resolution that I've been enjoying on the Oculus, and that didn't really happen. But the silver lining is the Pi tool option for dropping down to 72 hertz works way better than I was expecting. So your mileage may vary, but I'd be interested if people have other input or suggestions as far as optimizing the set of graphics options and stuff like that. But from now, I'm pretty happy, and I think over the next few days of week 13, I'm going to be doing more experiments and see how things go. But at least the initial experience today, working with the new March update, has the optimization. I'm really, really happy with the way that it's running. It's solid 72 hertz. It looks good. The field of view is head and shoulders above what I've had on the Oculus and the Vive. I ordered my Pimax in October, and it came maybe 10 days ago. So I've been experimenting with it a little bit, since then. But, the one other thing I wanted to mention, in my studio, there's about a 45-foot cable run is the typical distance that I need stuff to go from where the computers are to where my driving rig is. And it's frustrating because I've had HDMI and USB working at that distance for years, and I was optimistic that DisplayPort with the Pimax was going to be a similar, easy solution. Even if I had to spend, what seems like a lot of money on a good quality cable, I was happy to do so. But in my experience, I have not found anything longer than a 10-foot extension that works. I've gotten a couple of the active optical conversion DisplayPort cables, which purport to support DisplayPort 1.2 and DisplayPort 1.4, but no matter what coupler, and I believe part of the problem is that they're cables which are male at both ends, and they do work if I plug it directly into the computer and directly into like a 4K monitor. But adding an extension coupler at the end so you can plug the Pimax in, it just doesn't work. If I use the same cable, the same coupler, and a cable into a monitor, it does work. So I don't know, if there's handshaking going on or anything else that is being disrupted by the cable, or if it's simply a length issue. But I'm going to be experimenting and see if there's any way I can solve that problem, because for the time being, the short-term solution I've had is to move a computer out here next to my rig so that I can just plug the Pimax into it, and that's not satisfactory as far as the heat and noise that the computer makes. I'm much happier with everything being in the computer room. So we'll see if that's pretty much the one unsolved problem that I have at this point. But overall, my initial 10-day or so impression of the Pimax, it was working well enough before the update when I bumped the resolution down and was able to make frame rate and stuff. But from what I've seen today, running it with PyTool at 1, SteamVR at 100%, and 100% in the iRacing scale percentage, it works well. I'd like to be able to run more options within the game at higher levels and stuff like that, but without investing in new hardware or magic from above, I'm pretty satisfied with the way that it's running today. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you guys do have any input or other suggestions or experience that you've had with your Pimax or VR in general, I'd love to hear it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Drive safe. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.